Hello everybody and welcome to this new video. So today I'm making a little bit of a different video because I'm not talking about a growth stock. I am talking about Empire State Realty Trust, which is a REIT whose main business consists of owning and operating the Empire State Building. I think this is a very interesting bet because this bet is all about the denominator and it has very little to do um, with the REIT itself and with the rental of space itself, but much more to do with getting exposure to a landmark. And I believe that the Empire State Building is probably the most well known building in the world. It's known by 5, 6, maybe 7 billion people know about it. It is so linked to American history, and it is the must see landmark. It is the most visited monument in the United States. If you live abroad, the first thing you're going to do when you come to the US, well, you're most likely going to New York. And at New York, what do you have to do? See the Empire State Building. This is a must see landmark, just like the pyramids of Giza are for Egypt, Eiffel Tower for France, Great Wall of China for China, right? These are landmarks. They've been around for 100 years, perhaps longer than that, depending on which landmark you look at, but they will likely retain their status as a landmark because now it's all part of the culture. And you can purchase that landmark through a REIT, which is wonderful that you can have access to these landmarks because you can't buy the pyramids of Giza, you can't buy the Great Wall of China, but you can actually buy the Empire State, which I think makes it a very, very interesting bet in the future, especially as you're trying to protect your money over 50 years or 100 years. So let me just walk you through my thesis here with this company. And so the main thesis is it's nothing about the dividends. It's got very little to do with revenue growth. It has got everything to do with owning the Empire State Building as you would own, say, art or a very valuable piece of land. To me, this is the main proposition. Um, and what will the Empire State mean 50 years or 100 years from now? And the bet that I'm making is that it will be as valuable 50 years or 100 years from now. It will have the same meaning as today. It will still be the most visited attraction in the United States. I don't see that changing. It is now so ingrained into world culture. The place of the Empire State within culture has such inertia that it's going to be very, very hard for any competitor to remove that place, right? And there's lots of new buildings in New York. None of them are as famous as the Empire State, even though they're bigger, they're taller, but they're not as famous. That's because the Empire State has this unique meaning that is due to its history and that is due to its place in culture. So when I look at this investment, I look at the nominator, right? What is going to be divided by US dollar, the top number. What is that? Well, in the nominator, we have one Empire State today. We have one Empire State today. And tomorrow, it will still be about one Empire State. So the nominator does not change much. You're buying something that is likely going to stay the same and that is likely going to have the same appeal going forward. And then the other question, which is part of the basis of its investment, is will $1 today be worth $1 tomorrow? Or will $1 today be worth $1 in 100 years? And the answer to that is absolutely not. But you can make a bet, I think, a fair bet, that the Empire State will have the same meaning and the same appeal 100 years from now as it does today, because it is so uniquely linked to world culture. Um, and again, dollars, US banks, international banks, they're working really hard at creating new dollars by issuing new loans. Every time a new loan is issued, new money is created. The money supply does not decrease. Recently, central banks, they've started printing by buying government bonds and funding government deficits and deficits of all sorts of government entities. So the number of US dollars out there will continue to grow almost exponentially. I estimate about 15% per year. But the Empire State won't. The Empire State is only growing at 0% per year. It is a constant supply. And so, as Charlie Munger would say, the safe assumption for an investor is that over the next 100 years, the currency is going to zero. Um, but the Empire State is not going to zero. It's likely going to remain as a key landmark of the world that people will want to see regardless of what happens to the US dollar. So that's why it's perhaps one of my more conservative bets because it does not play with the nominator. It does not expect anything from the nominator. It is just a bet about the denominator. That's how I look at this investment. And that's why it's very surprising that I would own not a growth stock, a non-growth stock, but I do because I thought this one is interesting. So let me just tell you more about the numbers and the numbers of the Empire State. To me, this investment is all about the observatory. It is all about the observatory because the leasing of space. We don't know what's going to happen to offices in the future. I happen to believe most people are going to work remote. We don't even know what's going to happen to work. Are we still going to work in the same way in the future, or are people going to have 2-day work weeks where they actually don't go to the office anymore? I think it's a very plausible possibility that office space won't be nearly as valuable in the future. And that's why I would say if you were to buy buildings in Manhattan that are not the Empire State Building, you're at risk because that occupancy of office space may not be coming back. That's a big risk. But one thing that I'm pretty certain is not going away is people wanting to visit landmarks. As wealth gets created around the world, as emerging nations become richer and richer and richer, what they will want to do is tourism. And when you do tourism, the USA is a top tourist destination, New York is a top tourist destination, and the Empire State is number one on that list. That is the number thing that people will want to do. So I think it's an opportunity because of that. Like even if it's just the observatory in 50 or 100 years, I'm happy with that. I'm really, really happy with that. It's a bet on this observatory, and it's a bet that this observatory will always earn enough money in order to pay taxes and expenses to maintain the building. That's really all you need to have enough money to maintain the building through the observatory. Now, let me show you something interesting about this stock is ever since what happened in 2020, the events of 2020, uh, we've had a complete shutdown, right? So this stock crashed, and they're still in a phase where they're trying to get back to the level of observatory growth that they used to have, right? But they will get back to it. It just takes time because, of course, they shut down for a year and a half. So it's just going to take them multiple years to build back that level of operation where they actually operate at the level that they used to. And so the stock is still impacted by that. But over a long term, over a 50-year period, I have no doubt that the observatory will be run the same way that it was run about 5 years ago, right before the events of 2020. So I think that's a wonderful opportunity, and within 10 years, I don't see why observatory net operating income could be 3 times, maybe 4 times bigger, and I see really the observatory section being more than half of the revenues of this company as tourism grow. Another important point about the observatory is that right now, just check the prices, they are charging $44 to go up. And you may think it's a lot, but it's actually not a lot. I was looking at competing buildings. Competing buildings around the world that are landmarks like that are equivalent to $100. And if you look at the Burj Khalifa, tallest building in the world in Dubai, it's anywhere between $99 and $129 to go up on the Burj Khalifa. And I would argue it is less of a landmark. It's still a brand new building. There's no guarantee that it will be a part of culture like the Empire State. So when I see $44, they're obviously trying to gain back the traffic that they had pre-COVID. Tourism is wanting back to the level that it was pre-COVID. But as they get back to these levels, they will be able to raise their prices. And I see no reason why the Empire State Building could not charge at least as much as Burj Khalifa, which is more than twice as much. So I see a lot of opportunities with this observatory. It is essentially a private landmark of the United States, which is a very unique investment, in my opinion. The Empire State Building today, its popularity, the way we know about it, that won't change within 10, 20, or 30 years. I don't see that changing. And that's why I think this company has true staying power, while the dollar does not have true staying power. Hence, I think it's going to be a good investment. Let me get back a little bit into it. I got into this company in the second half of 2020 when these prices just didn't make any sense to me. Um, and so I started buying here. And of course, this is a stock I think you need to own for, 10, 20, 30 years. So you need to put it away in a portfolio. I wouldn't look at that stock much. Just put it away in your portfolio. Not investment advice, of course. But it's down again. It's down again to the levels that I was able to buy it in 2020. Because right now we have this fear about interest rates, and REITs are getting hurt, and you're throwing the baby with the bathwater where you throw an asset like the Empire State Building, like you sell over REITs. Like this company does not have the same risks as other REITs because it is a landmark. It is a piece of US history. It is a piece of world history. It's a piece of Manhattan. This is not it's a piece of culture. This is not something that I think you can compare to any other building in the world, except maybe another landmark. So that's why I love this stock. I think the management has been doing a fair job. As these prices went down, what do smart companies do when stock prices go down much more than fair value? You do buyback. They've done a lot of buyback in 2020, 2021, 2022, recently announced another $500 million buyback in 2022. So the number of shares outstanding have been decreasing. So you're actually owning a bit more of the Empire State Building for each share you own. And the debt, when I look at the debt, I find it very typical for a REIT. REITs have a lot of debt. It's typically how they operate. They have very long-term maturity on their debt. But when I look at the debt of this company, I don't see anything alarming. Much of their maturity is past 2030, and they have plenty of time to figure it out. So this is why I love so much this stock. It's a bet on owning a different asset, a landmark asset. There is very, very few landmarks that one can own. And I think this unique asset may not perform as much as a lot of growth stocks, but it adds diversification. And I think it will at least retain its value over 50 and 100 years. And there's so few companies that you can say that for. Can you predict that, say, a search engine will not go out of business 20 years from now because we will be searching by thinking about something in our minds, right? Can you say Coca-Cola is not going to go out of business, etc.? Like these brands can lose value. Technological innovation can hurt you. I don't think a landmark is going to be hurt. Pyramids of Giza are still popular today, and it's been more than 1,000, 2,000 years that people go to see them. Same for the Great Wall of China. And I think even though America is a young nation, this will be one of the landmarks that will last for centuries, and I think is worth owning. Again, thank you so much for watching. None of this has been or will ever be investment advice. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thank you for your time. Thank you for watching my channel. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Have a great day.